started. Let me just make sure everything looks okay. And I think we're good. Yeah, so we're good right now. Give me. Okay, cool. So yeah, day 3, just a quick recap of what we did. Generate a JWT and respond to client with token. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we pull up Postman, and in Postman, if we do a request to users/register, and we put in our body any email we want, as long as it's unique. So I'll do max7 and a password. And before I send that request, I'm going to show you the route that it's going to hit. So yeah, so our register route, it's going to hit. It's going to hash the password, create the user in the database, set that req.user ID, which thinking about this code more, I'm actually going to delete. I think I'm going to delete this line. I don't think it's necessary because we're going to have an authorization middleware eventually that's going to do that. So I don't think this is necessary at this step, but we might come back to that. So we're going to use JWT npm packages to assign the token with just the ID of the user, and that's what MongoDB responds to us. Here's our secret key that we just created on the fly. Eventually, we're going to secure that up and save it, probably in a .env file, but for right now, it's fine. And then we're responding .json with, okay, so we're no longer going to do the user ID or the token. I just want to respond with that token. So save this, it'll rerun per nodemon, and let's send this request. We should get back the token. And we got an error. Cannot get /users/register because I forgot to change the request method to post, to mirror right here, this .post. Let's try this again. And it's hanging. Oh, okay. Hopefully it took so long because we're just starting things up, but that was a little bit unusual. And I'm checking my salt rounds and I only have 10, so it definitely shouldn't take that amount of time. Let's try that one more time. So I made a new email, max8, click send, and that took a reasonable amount of time. So yeah, here's our user token. So we're good. And that is what we did day 3. So now day 4, we want to work on our post request to /users/login. So they're not going to have, at this point in the process, if a user's logging in from the front end, they're not going to have a stored token. They're just going to send us a request with possibly, or not possibly, in the body, there's going to be an email and a password. And this has to already exist in the database. So for authorization, we have no authorization. That's good. And then users login is the route we want to hit. So the things we have to work on are using bcrypt to compare submitted password with the saved password. And if everything's good, generate the JWT. Yeah, and then respond to the client with token. So, similar to our register, right? At least the generated JWT part and respond a client with token, really similar. So our first step, let's just compare that this password, once we hash it, matches what's in our database. So we want to make sure, this plain text password, when we hash it, matches. I don't have our MongoDB cloud up yet, but I can try to get it. So with hash passwords, we never can decrypt it to see the plain text. We only take the user's plain text again, hash it again, and compare it to the hash that we had stored previously. So we'll click on projects, and did I delete this? Uh-oh. Oh no, CSS art. I forgot the name of what we're building. And then I click on collections. And we'll work on, we'll send a request max8 at Gmail. So just to show you that that user already exists in our database. And next time I'll preload the database up so we don't have to wait. And while that's waiting, I'll make sure everything looks good on the stream. Okay, yeah, it looks good. Cool. And I've never seen that before with MongoDB Atlas, an error. So we'll try again. Click on collections again. Hopefully something didn't get screwed up. Okay, while that's working, it's unusual. This part has never taken this much time. But while that's working, we'll go ahead and work on this first objective right here. So going to that route, users.js router, we're going to work here in our login. And we'll still use a try catch because we're going to have some async action. So that'll be nice to have. So we can keep that. And the first thing I want to do is just respond with anything just to know that our login route is good. So we'll log in. I'll send a response, save this, and pull up Postman. And users log in, that's what I want. And we'll log in. Okay, let's wire it up nice. That is still working. Really, really strange. We might not, I wanted to show you guys the hash password in the database. I know I've done it on almost every other day, so it's not super essential. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not working right now. But anyway. So here's the idea. Where right now, the plain text password that the user is sending us in this request is stored in req.body.password. Also, we can just console.log req.body because we'll need the email too. So just to show you that we can have access to that. We click send here, and we see down here this nice object. So now our job is to hash this password. You know what? I misspoke. Our first task is going to be to find this user in our database by the email address. After we find the user, then we'll go ahead and compare the two passwords, the plain password and the hash password. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and say user.find1. Find one, as its name implies, will just return the first thing that matches. In this case, the first user that matches. And we want to search by. So the first argument you give it is what you want to search by. And for us, we want to search by this email. And the email is stored in req.body.email, which we just saw from console.logging it below, right here. I think for find one, that's all the argument we need to give it. So if it finds one, it'll go ahead and return it to the variable user if we say await right here. And then we can try to just, for right now, console.log this user, make sure we're good. And this is hanging because we haven't sent a response, so that's totally normal. But I'll refresh the database and send a request again. Yeah, this is so strange how long. So this isn't on my end. This is MongoDB Atlas because it's so strange how long the interaction is taking. But finally the database responded, really taking a long time, and it did find the user. So now this is the hash password that we want to compare. And to compare the hash password with our plain text password, bcrypt has built-in functionality for us. Specifically, we can use bcrypt.compare. And here, let's take a look. It says data any encrypted string. So I think the first argument is the plain text password, but let's Google that. So bcrypt.compare. Whoops. You know what? Maybe it is my computer. Maybe with streaming and stuff, it's just taking a dump, kind of. I want an excuse to kind of upgrade anyway, so this might be the trigger. But okay, so let's do a search for compare, because I know that's the name of the method we want to use. And then I see right here, yeah. So the first argument is my plain text password. So, and that we know is stored in req.body.password. And then the second thing we want is the hashed password. So where is that stored? And we console.log user, it's still down here. So it's user.password. Is that all we need? Hopefully. So I think this returns a promise. So to resolve it and to tell it to await, we can say await right before it. And I'm hoping it returns us, yeah, so it returns us a Boolean. So we'll call it isMatch. I always like to call my Booleans is and then whatever. But isMatch makes sense to me. And then we'll console log isMatch. And hopefully we get a true, because it should be true. So we send this request fresh and holding our breath. True, thank God, because that would have been hard to debug. So now, knowing that that's true, and here actually, so I guess first let's say if it's not true. So if authentication failed, I think we can respond to the user. I think we're going to respond with just a message that says authentication failed. I think that's fine for now. We might tweak it when we get to the front end, but yeah, right now let's just try that. And if I make this max, if I change the password to 12 instead, we should say authentication failed. Yep, so right here, authentication failed. And that'll be fine for right now. But then if it succeeds, what do we want to do, right? Let's check the README. We use bcrypt to compare the password. So now we want to generate a JWT. So let's check out how we generated a JWT for our register. It's this code right here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just copy that code and then tweak it if we need to. So if not is match, I'll put this in an else just to be safe, even though I'm not sure specifically that I need to. Can't hurt. So if our authentication succeeded, if bcrypt determined that it's the same passwords, sign a token, and we want a token with an _ID property so we will actually have a user./_ID because we got it up here already. So that's good. That token will be the same, and then we can respond.json with the token. And this is synchronous, right? The signing of this, I believe. So we should be good there. But let's try it. So we just saw authentication failed, so we don't need to re-see that. So let's put in the correct password, and hopefully we get a token back, but I see one mistake I already made. I want to wrap this in curly braces because this is equivalent to this. ES6 or ES7 shorthand. Save that. Send the request. This might be a short session today because it's really lagging. Okay, awesome. We got our token back. And I think that completes the login route, because at this point, the front end React client would take this token and use probably set local storage to store it. But that's totally a front end objective. So let's return to the README. We generated a JWT and we responded to the client with the token. So we get the big objective of a post request to users login. So now technically we can envision that the user has in their web browser the token is stored, and now they're going to go ahead and make requests, maybe to like submit new posts. Specifically in our app, we're letting users submit code, HTML, an HTML and a CSS code specifically for just drawing things. And to give you a fun example, maybe real quick, and I can show you to this, you guys. I made a project yesterday with a friend, and it turned out like actually kind of good. And I said before, like CSS is definitely not my thing. But let me see if I can pull it up. So yeah, I think it's in CSS, and then Instagram logo. And if I go ahead and run live server with index.html, hopefully it won't screw up anything we have going on here. And yeah, so that's the Instagram logo we created just entirely with CSS. So I thought it came out pretty well. Just to show you the real logo. This guy right here, and then the one we created. And obviously we can take out that gray. The gray was just a canvas to work with, but just to see it without that, I think that looks pretty good. So yeah, I had fun trying to make that. But this is the idea of the application, that users make these things and then submit them. So now our user has that token and they want to do things like submit a new post, but before they're allowed to do certain things on our website, we want to make sure they have they're authenticated. Basically, we want to make sure req.user exists. So that's our objective to req.user equals the user, basically. So this is a middleware I'm going to use everywhere in my routes. So maybe actually I could throw it in my routes and call it authentication. That might be a fine place for it to live right now. I'm not sure if there's a best practice on this where it should live, but right now that makes sense to me. So authentication, I'm going to call it. And then remember that code I wrote where I was like, oh, I totally had a brain lapse and wrote all this code where it's not needed. Now I think we can use it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that code. And so this is going to be a middleware, and a middleware is just a function, right? A function that takes request, response, and next automatically provided by Express when it's invoked, and then does whatever you want. But our objective is to decode the token. If it's legit, say next, so that the user can go to the next middleware. If it's not, if the user's not authenticated, we can just stop them in their tracks right there and just respond with not authenticated. And then the front end maybe can redirect them to the login screen or something. So that's our high level objective for this middleware. And I know we wrote some good code for it already. So let's check out what we already wrote. And to export this properly, or to test this properly, the code we wrote, I want to actually use it in a route. So I'm going to export it. And then we're going to go back to, actually, we're not going to go to users router. We're just going to go to app.js and create like just a fake test route for us right now. So I'm just going to say app.get. I'm going to say / protected, but this isn't even something we're going to use in our real app. This is just to test this middleware. And then I want to bring in this middleware and yeah, invoke it basically. So to do that right here, I can, did I call it auth? Yeah. So if I type auth and then tab, it'll auto import it. So we check at the top or not at the top, right here. It brought it in. I'm going to move that because it's in a weird place. I'm going to bring it to the top. It just looks, that's where most my imports are, even though my router is right here. So now the beauty of middlewares is you can just literally say comma and then the name of the middleware, and it'll, if this route gets hit, it'll first, it'll go to that middleware just automatically. And then after it gets through that middleware, we can create a custom middleware with a request response. And then I'm going to just respond, we'll check auth here. Just to show you guys, actually, I'm going to remove this auth first, just to show that this is working without it first. And I see we have an error in the console, so we'll check that out. Export const auth, unexpected token export. So we don't use export in Node projects. So that's my bad. So go back to our authentication. So yeah, that was too much coding with the React. For Node, we say module.exports equals auth. That should be fine. And then of course we have to bring it in app. I think just saying auth. Will that work? All right, there's no errors. So let's test out this new route, this protected. MongoDB is still working. It's still going. Let's click refresh on that, but I don't have much hopes for today. I have no idea what's going on here. Maybe I should sign out and sign back in, or I'll click refresh on it, see what happens. I'm glad we didn't wait too long on that. All right, so let's check out / protected. And so right now it's not using this body at all, but I'm going to use it in a second. So, well, I can control exit to show you. So it has no body and it has no authorization. And still, when we send that, when we send a GET request to / protected, it'll say will check auth. So now, change this message to authorized, and we only want to see that message when the user is actually logged in. So that's the whole point of the auth middleware that we're creating. Right now it says authorized, but there is no user logged in. So let's actually work on, well, actually, let me repaste in the body that I took away. And now let's put in our auth middleware and see what happens when we send a request. So go back to our auth middleware and let's check it out. Oh, wait, what am I doing? Yeah, so sorry, another hiccup. We don't care at this point. Our user's logged in with a token. We don't care at all about the body. They're not even going to have a req.body with email and password. So first we need a token. So let's go ahead and use users/login and just get ourselves a token. We got to change this to a post request. And let's copy and paste this token into authorization, bearer token, and then replace the old token we had. So now the whole purpose of this is to emulate a request from the front end React, which will store a token and submit it in a similar way. But Postman is just emulating that process. So now we have the token stored, and we can delete this from our body. Our body doesn't matter at all. And now let's see what happens when we send submit. So we get an error, cannot read property password of null. So password of null. Token. I don't even see the word password in here. Oh, is our authorization? So check the authorization headers, and it has authorization bearers, so that looks good. That's the main important part of what we're sending with this request. Sorry, I'm using the wrong route. We want to test protected because that's where we put our middleware, our auth middleware. So let's go ahead and resend that request. Cannot post to protected, right? Because I made it a GET request. So let's change that. And I'll put it back to the authorization screen, although it doesn't matter. JWT is not defined, okay? That makes sense. We need to import it. Okay, we'll save this and submit. And I think everything worked, but let's go through it piece by piece. So first we sent a GET request to protected, and this fired right here. Our first middleware was Auth, so it got directed to this middleware here. Then we console logged request.headers.authorization, which is right here in the console. And then we used just some JavaScript to extract the actual token. And then we console log that token, but it's all mixed in here, so it might be hard to see. And then we used the built-in method with JWT to verify that that token was signed by our secret. It was signed with our secret key. So again, bad security practice, but we'll clean this up later before pushing it or submitting it. So yeah, now we know that it's a legitimate token that we issued that this user just sent to us. So now our whole objective is to put not req.user ID, but we want, I guess we could design it as req. I think traditionally it's req.user though. So let's go ahead and say req.user equals so this user object that's being returned, what does that look like? I want to console.log this user object so that I can remind myself what it looks like exactly. So here I'm going to console.log req.user. And I'm not going to set request.user equal to user yet. And I'm not going to respond.json yet. So it's going to hang, but that's fine. I don't care. So this is what our decoded token looks like. So the only thing we really need is the ID. So let's go ahead and say, let's go ahead and say req.user equals user dot underscore ID, because that's the only thing we need. We don't care about the IAT. I believe that's when it was created or something. So that's fine for right now. We just need the user ID. Maybe we'll have to tweak that later. And then in our auth, we don't, so in our auth, we don't actually respond to the client at all, because that would kill the whole chain. And our only goal here was to get a req.user to be matching that user ID. If, however, if this user object came back and it failed, when jwt.verify fails, what does that look like? Is that null? Or let's go ahead and take a look at that when it fails. So because I need to know. I think it's null, but we'll take a look. So we send it and we get it decoded. That's great. But if we delete this E, and I'm going to try to not forget. So I deleted that E from the token, so it should fail. And in our console.log, we got, do we get nothing? I don't see it. I still console.log the user, right? Let me try again. I don't see it. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Oh, maybe this doesn't return anything? No, it has to, right? Yeah. Okay, let's try again. Does it just return this? I don't even know what that is. I gotta look up jwt.verify, I guess. That's weird. Oh, sorry. It's hitting this error before. So let's move this down. This error was being generated and this line of code was never being invoked. So try again and we should get undefined or null, right? And again, I don't see it. Let me take out this line of code. Okay, same response. So this must somehow, does jwt.verify, it must send, does it send back a promise? let's console.log jwt.verify. It must be sending back a promise. Or I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm so confused by this. Does it return a string? Or I guess this is an object. Where did we use JWT.verify to refresh my memory? So we look in our users router. We haven't used JWT.verify yet, so it probably is a promise and I'm using it incorrectly. So let's look up how to use it. JWT verify. Oh, if not, it will throw the error. So it just, I don't even know how that works, but it just throws an error. So we need to wrap it in a try catch. That's interesting. But maybe we should make it asynchronous. Well, we'll try. Okay, so it somehow is throwing an error by itself. So I want to wrap this in a try catch. That actually makes things nice. So then if there's any error that gets thrown, I can just return next error, and Express will nicely display that error for me. So I think we're good there. And then, so let me redo the code. So JWT to verify, we get a user. If that's successful, the user will be there. If not, the error will be thrown. And oh, here I wanted to do request.user equals user._ID. All right, let's test that. Okay, so here's the bad request, I'm pretty sure. And we send it, and that's nice. We get invalid token. That's perfect. I love the magic of the invisible express error handler. Okay, so let's put back that character E, and this should be a good request. And for a good request, we actually just want it to go to the next middleware. We added req.user, that was our whole objective, and now go and do whatever submission or crazy stuff you want to do. You're authenticated. So save this. And so really we should see nothing if, oh no, we should see authenticated or authorized because of our response right here. So here's so when we said next, it got by this middleware and was able to go to the next middleware. When that error generated from the JWT verify, it bypassed this middleware and went to Express error handler middleware. So that's exactly what we wanted. So I think we get some crosses or some X's. We read the JWT from the client request header, which was stored here. We determined if it was authentic. We modified the request.user. We tested with Postman and the /protected. So we get a big check. Cool. That actually worked somewhat all right. And I think I'm gonna call it there. It seems like a good place to end today. Thanks for checking it out. I'll catch you next time.